All right, so this would be a GCSE style question. And actually, we would be using what's called completing the square. However, normally, when we see this question, notice they did not mention completing the square at all, right? All we're asked to do is to take this quadratic expression and write it in this different format where something is grouped together in brackets squared and we have this extra value on the end. However, if you think about it, right, when we're completing the square, this kind of looks familiar. We kind of have a format that's similar to this. There was a little bit different of a way that I taught you how to complete the square, but I will show you now how we can get back into this format that we're requested for. It's just important because it's up to you to know that you need to use complete the square to do this. All right, so we actually are set up nicely here. X squared plus 4x plus 5. We're in that proper format that we like when we usually start, and we're usually set equal to 0. You could almost kind of think of this expression that we want as being set equal to 0 because that's kind of how we're going to get back to this format that we want. All right, normally when we're completing the square, right, the very first step, we wanted to move the c value over to the other side of our equation. So I'll rewrite this as x squared plus 4x equals negative 5, and then we'll just complete the square as normal, taking the b value, dividing it by 2, and squaring it. So b here is 4, divide that by 2 and square it, gives me 2 squared, which is 4. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides of the equation and then go from there. Normally when we're completing the square, the next step is to factorize this left side. It will always be something in brackets squared. I'll use the magic number, which is 2. All right, and then on the right-hand side of my equation, I have minus 5 plus 4 is a negative 1. Notice we're kind of almost in that setup, right? If I have this set equal to 0, if I set this equal to 0, we would match. Okay, and I'll show you what that looks like now. All I need to do is take the right-hand side of my equation and add 1 to both sides. So I'll have x plus 2 all squared, and then I'll have plus 1. And now I'm set equal to 0. So compared to what they ask us to write, this now matches if I ignore this equals 0. You can kind of ignore that because it wasn't even there in the first place, but we rearranged our expression in order to look the same as what they requested from us. So this would be our answer. You would say, okay, if the question was just asked this way, you would just write x plus 2 all squared plus 1, and then you're done. However, there's another type of question where they might ask you what is the value of A and what is the value of B, and you would just fill in those values. So we know that whatever is added to x in the brackets squared is the value of A, so 2 here, and then B is the value that's added on at the end, 1. Okay. If it does happen, and this question it did not occur, but if it does come up with the scenario that A or B is negative, that's totally fine. Because they're telling us here that A and B are integers. An integer is a positive or negative whole number. Okay, so if A or B were to be negative, that would be extremely okay, and you would just fill in that value. All right. There's a whole worksheet on these types of questions, and I would like for you to take a look because this is where completing the square will come in on the GCSE. All right. It's always going to be kind of disguised. You're just going to be asked to rewrite the expression in a different kind of format, okay? So be on the lookout for those.